So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have Mr. Sam Boswell on. Now, Sam has been working with me now for I think about nearly 6 months now. And like everyone I speak to each week, I think Sam's story is pretty empowering because of where he's come from and where he is. And by my account, since him first starting, he's absolutely smashing it. And so regardless of whether we're talking about working with me in a program, I think that story and that narrative about taking ownership of yourself is really powerful for anyone to hear. So I want Sam to do more talking than me. Before we jump off, Sam, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, a bit about you?
Sure. So my name's Sam Boswell. I'm currently CTO at Terralayer. So I look after an engineering team. We build really big batteries across Germany. We have a software platform that abstracts them and controls them and does lots of interesting things. As a startup, I've been through the startup journey a couple of times. We're probably closer to a scale up now as we start to grow out and hit profitable state and scale up. I previously led engineering teams in lots of different areas, energy, information security, and a few different bits. And then away from that, I've got a son relatively recently. I think that was the changing point where we started chatting. Living in Reading, in south of England. So, yeah.
So by all accounts, from a work business perspective, pretty flat out and full on. Like I know the industry that you work in is pretty fast moving. Also, the kind of role that you do is pretty intense and fast moving as well. So you got all that going on, and then a new baby thrown into the mix, a few months back as well. So busy boy.
Always busy. It keeps us entertained though, doesn't it?
For sure. Well, let's kind of rewind then. A few months into the past, it's a good place to start. You'd, I think, seen some of my bits. Maybe someone, a client talking about their experience, or just followed me for a bit, and booked in a chat. Decided to reach out for a conversation. What was going off with you back then that made you put your hand up and think, right, you know what, I want to make a few changes and do a bit of work?
So I can probably go back before I saw your ad as well. We'll go backwards even further back. I was still working, same role. Everything was in a decent place. I was working with a personal trainer at the time. I shout out Tom Tagg. And we were doing some lifting, we were doing gym time. We were like really getting into it. My diet was in a decent place. I was hitting strength goals, like my deadlifts were up, and we'd done that nice, like incremental, hey, start really light and we'll get your form really good and we'll build up and we'll like be in a really good place. I was like, this is excellent, like everything's great. And then we started trying for a baby, and that was like its own challenge, but that was okay. And then we got a baby and went through pregnancy with Abby, and yeah, the baby ruined all of my carefully honed routines and progress and everything else, and that's okay. Like it's what we were there for. It's what we expected to happen. But I noticed that kind of that cadence that I'd built up stopped, and the ability to kind of have total control of my day disappeared. So yeah, there's at that point where I was like, I've tried some coaches before, and coaches that I'd found without tooting our own horn, like had been a bit naff. Like you'd find a coach that was like, oh yeah, I'll coach you through all these things, but you're like, but you've never done it. You don't know what you're talking about. Like you're just giving me advice. I could have just got that from a chat bot. Like that's no good. So then, yeah, found your ad, and the messaging echoed well, because I think you had on there the line that was like, everyone always says to me, I know what I need to do, I'm just not doing it. I'm like, I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do. I've been there. Like I've done all the good things. I know what I need to do. I'm just not doing it. But I was like, but I've got all these things going on. So that was the little nudge that it was like, go on then, let's have a chat with this. Have another northerner to kind of give you a kick in the right direction.
That's it. There's a few bits there to unpack, but I think, I mean, firstly, it speaks to my ego. I quite like it, but that the sort of the naff aspect of some potentially some other coaches or some ways you can work, because I think part of it, I believe, not always, because you can be an overweight person coach and get someone to get thin, right? And you can be, for example, jiu-jitsu. I do. You can be, a amazing coach in jiu-jitsu but not be the best competitor, right? There's all of that. So just caveating what I'm going to say. But equally, if you've just had a baby, you're the CTO of a large business that's all gone manic, and there's some 22-year-old shouting at you to do a few burpees and saying we've all got the same hours in a day, you're like, nah, not really, mate. Actually, I think you're missing a trick. Maybe some of what he's saying is inherently true, but actually he hasn't got the context. And you sort of go, well, yeah, you say and all that, but actually there's a misalignment. So I do think that's important that you can go, well, actually, by the way, I'm not perfect, but he's got kids, he's got a business, and he kind of seems to know what he's on about, and he's pretty forthright. Well, okay, there's I guess at least there's a bit of synergy there. But equally, what you're describing, I think, more importantly, which was pre-baby, yeah, on it, focus, working with the PT, routines and structures dialed in. We're like, yeah, we're flying here, and that's great. And then you put a baby, and it's like putting a little hand grenade in your life. Now, don't get me wrong, it's amazing, but it's also intensely stressful, disruptive, and rightly so. And I think and that little hand grenade aspect, it could be a baby, it could be work going ballistic, it could be a multitude of all these things building up. But you get to a point sometimes where you go, hold up a second. I kind of know fundamentally underneath, there was an old operating manual I had, and it kind of worked, and I was feeling pretty good. I can't put this in anymore, and it's not working. And I know I want that, what I had before, but I can't see how I can make this work. And for me, I think the key there is being able to take a step back and go, hold up a second, things are different. And so it's looking at, well, what are the fundamentals? Basic, it's most basic. I want to be able to move. I want to look at what I put in my mouth. I want to be less stressed. I want to be more present. I want to be healthy. I want to be a good husband. I want to thrive at work. Okay, well, how are we achieving that? Well, what was working before doesn't work now. And that's kind of where a lot of guys get stuck. And that's where I think some of that, I know what I need to do. I just don't do it because it's like, well, I can't do that. Therefore, nothing. No, I think at that point we need to look at differently what we can do. And it doesn't mean we don't do anything. It means we need to sort of reappraise the situation and apply it in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very much it. It was definitely that point of like, I hit that point of like, I've got all these things, I've got all the moving parts, but I can't quite break through. And that was a draw. I think my question to you when I first came in was like, hey, just give me the magic bullet.
Yeah.
Just tell me what I need to do. Build my morning for me.
Yeah.
And that's what it started. Like that 1% started off with that, like, look, here are some touch points of like, try these things. These have worked for a lot of people before. Start here, and then it gives you that like that momentum to iterate from. So even if it's not perfect, and it's not like this is the ultimate startup routine to end all, because that's not how it works. But it was enough of like a put something in place, commit to something, iterate from there, and then we can find out what's working, what builds from there. And that landed well. Like that, it fits into my head well anyway.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, as you were talking there, there's kind of a parallel to the sort of the startup sort of mindset, which is start small, iterate, put something into the market, test, repeat, course correct. And to build momentum these days with software, you don't just build the massive shiny thing and go, right, boof, here we go. It's like we start and we iterate and we get something out as quickly as possible, typically anyway, right? I'm talking
that's what
like
I try for.
Yeah, that's what you try to do, yeah. And so, but it's almost like applying some of that. Well, it is about applying some of that same kind of approach to yourself, because there's a big shiny thing that we want. Fuck me, how am I going to make that happen? Just in some outer world. So, well, let's forget that. Like, what are the small constituent parts we can commit to and do? Oh, and lo and behold, those smaller things actually feel pretty good, and you feel pretty good, and you can show yourself, oh, actually, well, in amongst the madness and everything that's going on, I can do some of this stuff, right? And then we build from there, right?
That's it. So it worked well. It worked well as a starting point.
What would you say was kind of your biggest stumbling block then? And I want to go on to talk about where we are now and what we've learned, right? But what would you say was your biggest stumbling block or frustration when you were back at that point?
I think it's that sense of inertia, that sense of like, how do I start the ball rolling? Knowing what I think it was the abrupt stop that hurt that, because I'd built up to a point that I was happy, drawn a line, and that like sense of, if I want to get back there, there's so much gap. I think we spoke about it recently, that the gain in the gap concept. Like the gap at that point was so big that I couldn't see the way to just start the ball rolling again and start to move back. And that was probably the biggest. That was probably the biggest gap was that inertia.
Yeah, and I think when I say your Sam, I mean the royal you. One's ego feeds into that as well, because you've got, well, this is what I want to be. well, what's the point in doing some of this basic crap? I was doing X, Y, and Z, and so even your own head can stop you doing some of this stuff. And I did like a solo podcast about this a couple of weeks back about building habits, and I think a big part of it, and this isn't me like having a go at anyone, but it's more like saying maybe it's a bit, but like your ego gets in the way. It's like, oh, what's the point in that? So you don't do that. Well, you haven't done anything. So I was about to do something that's better than zero. But in my experience, when you do a small thing repeatedly, it has quite a powerful impact. It's that compounding effect of those small behaviors, and then as they all start to amass, we all start to feel better, look better, operate better, right? So if that's where we were, I guess, and we've started to touch on this already in terms of those incremental steps. As we sit today, then, Sam, we've done a fair bit of work. You've gone through the first phase of the program. We're now in the second phase, and we're still working together. Lots of stuff's happened. Lots of lives happened. Babies are still there. Work's got its challenges. There's all the milieu of life is still going on, right? Nothing's really changed. And arguably, you could say some stuff's a bit more intense at the moment. So, what have been your key learnings then, having come through this process and what you've learned and built up over time?
What's the take home? I mean, it's 1%, isn't it? That's the difficult thing, is that there's not been like, Luke said this thing and it's revolutionized my life. Like we've started from scratch, because we've not done that. What we've done is gone, let's make a little tweak here. Let's just tweak here. Let's just tweak here. And so it becomes really difficult to be like, that's the thing, that's changed everything, because it isn't. It's like, hey, what happens if we just push a bit more protein in the morning? What happens if we just make this little tweak here? So that compounding aspect is the biggest change. Now, I think alongside that, we've got stuff like the morning routine. Like it was a big point for me. It was a big start point that helps me set up my day. And we're now in a point where my exercise is back on track. I'm getting the walks in the morning, the rucking's going. I'm getting back
With the
into
baby.
with the baby.
Yeah.
The baby's the best fitness aid. Like, we put the pack on and put the baby on, and the progressive overload as he grows now.
Yeah, exactly. The weight increases over time, right? It's brilliant.
Yeah. Once he's a toddler, it's going to be a hard morning. But no, it's that little tweaks here or there that have led to reclaiming the things that make a compounding difference through the day. So when my day kicks off, and I've kicked off and I've got the hydration, I've got some decent diet in, I've done a bit of movement in the morning, I've done these things that just set up the rest of the day, then the day flows a bit easier. And if the day flows a bit easier and you're doing the things right, then the evening flows a bit easier. And you go into the evening and you're like, you've got a bit left in the tank to spend some time with your wife. And then, you can spend time with your wife, and then you go to bed because the life's been a little bit easier. So you sleep a bit more. And like this compounding is the biggest take home.
Yeah. And like you said there, it's all built up on a multitude of little bits. Because I guess when I asked the question, what's the main takeaway? There's a kind of a dichotomy in that, isn't there? Because there isn't really one thing. It's that cumulative effect of those little things, and you're not going to get all the little things right all the time, because that's not possible and that's not how life works. But if there's a lot of that happening consistently on repeat, well then, as an emergent property, like you're saying, you feel better, more present in the evenings, you feel healthier, and so if we can make that ticking over in the background consistently, that's when we can walk around feeling better about ourselves and how we're showing up. And that's also how I believe where we can say, arguably, with what's going on with yourself and others, like work's a bit stressful, other things go, home. I know your son had hand, foot, and mouth, which is not a barrel of laughs.
That was great.
Recently. But then equally, because you're on top of some of this stuff, you can weather that and get through it and not just get steamrolled every time something difficult happens. It doesn't mean these things aren't challenging in and of themselves, but you've got like a foundation of behaviors which are allowing you to show up in the way that you want. And some of them will drop off sometimes. That's it. Like, I know you travel a lot with work as well, right? And we discussed that, and that was kind of a big thing almost right at the start. And so for me, it's not you've got a perfect routine in one area and then that's it. It's like, well, we need to adapt it and tweak it relevant for when you are traveling. And will it look as it does at home? No, but that's okay. And so again, it's been able to be comfortable and cool with that, because that's what allows that form of momentum. You make the progress, right?
Yeah. That travel early on, that almost damaged the cadence that we're starting to build up, because we were doing that, like, let's hone this, like, let's hone this routine. Let's get these non-negotiable items down. And I was like, Luke, I've got non-negotiable items, but now I'm in Berlin and I
Yeah.
haven't got all the things that I set up. And we were like, but it doesn't matter. You've still got structures in place that says you can still do the things, you can still make progress. Nothing collapses then. So that resilience of it is really important.
And I think that kind of loops back to that bit at the start. We're talking about if you're working with someone approach or even on yourself, you can't have a completely rigid approach because life isn't rigid, right? Life, lots of the gents I work with do travel a lot, or they've got circumstances at home which are different. Things will happen, and so we've all probably got a rough kind of, I like to think of a BAU, business as usual sort of approach where on a normal week and a normal sort of day, this is how we run things, and great, right? But we can't have that all the time, and so I think where often guys fall down if they're trying to build up some healthy habits and behaviors, trying to show up better, they'll go, right, I'm going to do all this stuff. And it'll probably work for a bit. And then something will challenge that because it will, because that's just how the nature of life. Life is suffering, as the Buddhists say.
Yeah.
But then when that happens and it impacts it, well, I can't do it. Oh, it's all fucked and back to square one. Whereas actually, if we say, whoa, just hold your horses a second. Okay, that's impacted it. Well, what can we do instead? What can we do differently? That park in your ego, what can we do that instead? And so, and you go, oh, I can do a whole suite of stuff. And it doesn't mean because you've been presented with a certain situation and maybe it's compromised some of the things you do, you have to adapt it. That's not less than you peaking on a normal BAU day. It's the best you can do for that day. And a bit like when you're traveling, it won't look the same. But I think that's okay. Now, if we allow ourselves to kind of play that game throughout life, well, then it will mean you continually improve. Now, there are also times when we actually fuck up. Like none of us are far more perfect. And you go, well, yeah, lots. Definitely, I'm pretty good at that. And but again, when that happens, if we can then park our ego and go, well, let's just do a bit of a root cause analysis on what happened. What did I do? Why didn't I shower myself in glory there, or whatever it is? Okay, you can't stop that thing having happened, but we can learn from what's happened and be better next time. And so, if we can kind of try and keep that running in the background, within reason, no matter what's going on, we can always progress. And I believe that's just a more empowered place to behave. And I know that we've had conversations around all sorts of stuff like that, Sam, haven't we? Like good
Yeah.
and bad. But then rather than it's all shit or I'm bad, that's it, conversation over. We go, no, what can we do, and how can we sort of keep building here? Well, then you feel like you make progress, and I think that's a real. I believe that's a really important one because that's what allows any of this stuff to actually be sort of tangible long term.
Yeah, it definitely keeps that like the fuck it moment. They're like, oh, I've done a little bit of damage here, so blow it all off. I may as well go all out.
Yeah.
Kind of keeping on top of that. It's definitely a state.
And it's a common one, and in the groups as well, like the guys talk about it. But I think the more that you have, because we all have fuck it's, and you will also have a balls to it. But then I think once you've understood and unpicked some of this stuff a bit more and understand how you tick, you'll have one of those moments. You can't unlearn or unknow that. So there's a point at which you go, "What time? Come on, stop me. Let's stop being a knobhead here. Let's put the tools down and just look at the situation and keep going." Now, historically, on your own, that might have been a 3 or 4 month, you know, course correction. Well, I think once you've done some of this stuff, that can turn into a 2 day one or a 1 day or even a half an hour one. Do you know what I mean? So it's being able to catch yourself and do that. And once we're able to do that, on balance, I think things start to look and feel better because we're treating ourselves as an ongoing positive project. A bit like you would, again, looping back, do with business, right? Or with work. Like if you've got an engineering problem, you don't go, right, guys, you're all sacked, see you later.
Fuck it all.
Why is Sam fired the entire team? Oh, well, because there's one line of code was slightly wrong. All right. Like, you don't do that, right? But it's about applying that same sort of methodology to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, don't let them know that. That's
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, sort of Damocles hanging over him, exactly.
it's not the way we go. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It echoes back and forth.
If someone was sat here listening to this, then Sam, and let's say they were in a similar situation to you, how you were feeling, back we discussed a few months back. And this question isn't necessarily to be, oh, go and work with Luke, but more just in the headspace that you were in. If someone was like that back then, what would you say to somebody like that who's in that kind of space of, I know what I need to do, I don't do it. It's all great on paper, but like that, nothing's on fire, but not feeling amazing. What would you say to someone in that kind of situation like you were?
Yeah, because it's really hard because you do end up at that point where you're like, I am a competent adult. Like I know what I need to do, and sometimes having that little bit of external nudge is what it takes just to unpick that first um that first step is the thing that needs to happen. Um, for me, it was the group, the lads that are on there, that the peer support. And I'm not going to say peer pressure in a negative way, but it is a positive thing. Like you end up with a group of people who are moving in the same direction, and it gives you that little nudge to be like, oh shit, yeah, I am going to do the good thing because everyone else has done the good thing. Yeah, I think I probably should. So that was super useful. But yeah, it's that little bit of first momentum is sometimes difficult to get when you're in the middle of it. Like you aren't. Again, we'll go back to what you said. You know what to do. You're not doing it. So why aren't you doing it? Well, sometimes you need just a little bit of a nudge, and that's okay. A little bit of momentum from outside is enough to get the ball rolling, and so that was useful. That was the useful thing for me, was getting some external momentum that just starts it moving.
And the why aren't you doing it? But so I know what I need to do. I'm not doing it. The why. I think also, and that's where the external momentum helps. Also, we stop at that. Like we go, why? I'm lazy, or insert some kind of like surface level platitude, and the, kind of on the face of it, that might be true. But if we unpick that and go, you might say, oh, I'm lazy. Yeah, okay, you're a CTO of a large business, you got a kid. That doesn't sound very lazy. I'm sure you've done some long hours, right? So, yeah, well, so the question will be, well, why are you behaving like that? Why are you lazy? Oh, well, it's not lazy. I'm tired. Okay, why are you tired? I was up until midnight. Why were you up until midnight? And so you start to pull that thread. And once we get to the root of it, more often than not, I find as a coach, the root answer seems really obvious. Oh well, because I stayed up late, I drank a bit of booze, I ate a load of shit, and I was on my screen till late, and I had a mini row with the missus because I wasn't paying attention to it. Oh, that's why you didn't get up then. Not you're lazy. So how about we address that stuff, and then perhaps you might do that. But I guess like if we look back to I know what I need to do it, the why, we often kind of don't. It's hard to interrogate that why yourself. And when you point that out, you go, well, what about that then? You go, well, okay, of course, maybe I get to bed on time, I'll probably be all right. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like blindingly obvious, but it's quite hard to see that when you're in it sometimes. And I have a coach. I said this, I'm very transparent about this because I'm not perfect. I need to work on stuff. And most of the most powerful conversations I have are being told something very, very obvious. Once you see it, you're like, "Are you kidding me?" Nope. Like it's right there, but you can't see it. Right? That's the point.
That's it. You definitely need that outside view sometimes, and it is that the root cause analysis is difficult to do when you're inside it. That okay, so why about that? Okay, so you think that's a thing. No, someone else can be like, no, let's drill down, keep drilling until there's something that you can take action on. Because you can't take action on, I feel lazy. That's not a change that you can make. So you can keep drilling down until you got something where you can be like, right, we can do something about that.
Exactly, and then we can address that. But I think then the powerful part there is once we get to the root cause, we address that. That's a more fundamental change. It's not just a bolting something on top. Now, it might be that we're trying to do not surface level thing, but a bit of exercise, right? For argument's sake, in the morning. Why is that not happening? Well, then we pull that thread and we go, oh, well, that at the bottom is why it's not happening, and so let's sort that out and with that now an old school sort of like drill sergeant mentality is like, just fucking get up and do it. And that probably will work temporarily, but once that's taken away, that root cause problem is still in there, bubbling away. And so if we get to those root causes, then we know what we need to do. And that's also where the course correction we talked about, self course correction on the loop is like, some days you might be, oh, fuck, I'm knackered, why? And then that'll run for a couple of days. Oh, why do I keep waking up knackered? I'm lazy. No, I'm not. Oh, hold a second. Yeah, I've been working late again. Oh, there we go. Right. But you can do that for yourself then because you've seen it. And I think that's what allows this stuff to keep going, right?
It's a toolbox. It's all about building that toolbox.
Well, Sam, it's been a pleasure chatting. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know anyone listening would have got a lot of value out of talking about this, and it's also good to hear others talk, not just me, because I'm good at I'm good at waffling. If anyone is listening and they're interested in having a chat with me about what we've talked about, see if I can help, please reach out in the comments or the DMs. But equally, I think if anyone is listening and relating to what Sam was talking about from where he was, you don't need a coach necessarily to do that. I think the reality is recognizing if something doesn't feel quite right, it's not quite right. And the first step is being honest and going, maybe I don't know what I need to do. And if you sort of allow that, then it opens up a world of possibilities to go, perhaps I need to look at things a little bit differently. Now, of course, as a coach in a program, that's exactly what I do, and I can help with that. But on the flip side, looking at yourself with the same lens, you can also do that as well. And so I think the first step is just being about being honest with your situation and what's going on, you know? On that note, Sam, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'll see you all next week. Cheers, guys. Thank you.